Hello everyone. My name is Elise. Welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing so good today. We are doing my last round for the year of anticipated releases. I do them in third chunks for the year. So this is going to be the last 4 months, September through December of 2025. And I'm getting this out right in time for you to pre-order all of these. I love doing my anticipated releases. It gets me so excited and inspired to be reading, and it really does help me kind of get a gauge of the themes that I'm really interested in reading about, because there always tend to be some through lines. So we'll see by the end what the through lines of these books are seeming to be. But I'm really excited. We have, I think, 20 plus books here today. I didn't even count how many there were, but there's definitely more than 20. And they are, once again, all from independent publishers. I've done that for all of my anticipated release videos this year, mostly because there's just so many interesting books coming out from independent publishers for me that this video is long enough just doing those. I don't even need to add in stuff from the big five, and you're probably going to hear stuff about the big five from other booktubers anyway, so you don't necessarily need me to put them on your radar. They have a big marketing budget. They will be on your radar regardless, but these ones are so interesting. I could just spend all my time reading these if I wanted to. So we're gonna start in the order that they are being published. Our first book that we have here is Beyond All Reasonable Doubt, Jesus is Alive. This is a short story collection by Melissa Lozada-Oliva, and it is getting published by Astra House. Now, first and foremost, this is blurbed by Chelsea Beaker, who I love. I've talked about her a lot on the channel this year. Her book that I read at the beginning of the year, Mad Woman, that's one of my favorite books so far of the year. And yeah, so she's blurbing something, I think I'm gonna like it. And she tends to write like dark feminist stuff. And I think this is gonna have that bent as well. The short blurb on this one is an ethereal and revelatory short story collection about faith, delusion, and the demons that can't get enough of us. Ooh, even that sounds so good, but I'll read you a little bit of the one-liners from the stories. So there is a beheaded body that interrupts a quinceañera, an obsession with a father's bizarre video game shifts a lonely girl's reality, and a sentient tail sprouts from a hospital worker's backside, throwing her romantic life into peril. Oh, it sounds so good. Doesn't it sound so good? This year, I have really been diving back into short story collections. I had a little bit of a waffle with them last year and was struggling to just really like stay engaged with them. But I am back in my short story bag, and there have been so many short story collections this year that I've been really interested about, and this is definitely one of them. So I can't wait for this. Again, Beyond All Reasonable Doubt, Jesus is Alive. Also, fucking hilarious title. So very excited for that one. This one is getting published on September 2nd. So there you go, first book down. Second book we have coming from Two Lines Press. I just did an indie publisher taste test video for them. This is their next book in the Calico series. I collect this series, so I get every edition that they come out with, of which there are 2 a year. This is their second half of the year release. It is called Hair on Fire. It's a collection of Afghan woman poets. There are 5 poets in here, and then also a range of translators as well. So it's an anthology, which is what this series always is. It's an anthology that's typically centered around a location or a language, and I can't wait for the new edition. So the little tagline on this one says, 5 female Afghan poets wield language to combat the loneliness, absurdity, and claustrophobia of life in a war-torn country and its diaspora. So, oh, can't wait. I love the poetry ones. I've been really enjoying the poetry ones recently. Happy to have it. This one also comes out on September 2nd. Next up, we have The Book of I by David Greig, getting published by Europa Edition. What I found is it's expected to come out on the 9th of September. So hopefully that is actually accurate. This one is by a Scottish author, and it has been shortlisted for a couple of prizes this year, but the premise I just found so interesting. Also, I love the cover. I'm not gonna lie, that's a huge part of it, but the premise I think sounds really good. So I'm gonna read a part of it to you. 825. In the aftermath of a vicious attack from raiders in the north, an unlikely trio finds themselves the lone survivors on a remote Scottish isle. Still breathing are young brother Martin, the only resident of the local monastery to escape martyrdom, Una, a beekeeper and a mead maker who has been relieved of her violent husband during the slaughter, and Gremer, an aging Norseman who claws his way out of a hasty grave his fellow raiders left him in, thinking him dead. So not only is the setting of this book very interesting, both in the year 825 and the location, the Scottish Isles. The other thing that really drew me to this is in the themes that the publisher talks about. It says commentating on guilt and redemption, but also humanity and love and the things we choose to believe in. And that is a combination that I am truly just a sucker for. I enjoy it when we get taken through trials and struggles with the understanding that like that's part of what it means to be human and that's part of humanity, but we also have love and hope as things to balance those out. So I think this could just really be a good fit for me. Ooh, I have high hopes. I have high hopes. And I'm really excited. So that is the Book of I. Next book, we have Muscle Man by Jordan Castro. This is coming out from Catapult and it's getting published on September 9th as well. And this is not the typical book that I would read, but something about this blurb makes me think I could actually enjoy it. So let me tell you what that is. Again, this short blurb is a hilarious, suspenseful, metaphysical thriller following a day in the life of an English professor who would rather be lifting weights. This is a book from the author of The Novelist, which I have not read, but I heard great things about. And I think this book is taking on toxic masculinity. It's taking on liberal arts, higher education culture. And we sort of get like this Jim Bro professor archetype setup with our main character, which is the thing that I normally don't like reading about. I think there's value in people writing about it. I just don't tend to get a lot out of reading it. But the two things that make me think like this could actually work for me is, one, it says it has an ingenious twist at the end. And I do love an ingenious twist at the end if they can actually pull that off. I don't know if that's just a marketing ploy, but it's getting me, so the marketing ploy is working. And the other thing is this is supposed to be, again, a critique on contemporary masculinity, on the state of higher education. My previous career was in higher education. And if something is telling me intentionally up front, like, hey, this is going to be a satire, it is going to be funny, it is going to be obvious that we're making fun of this, then I can be on board with it. So I think this could work for me for those reasons. And I'm excited. I'm cautiously optimistic for this one. So that is Muscle Man. And then we're going to go over to Tin House for our next release. And this is a memoir, so nonfiction. It is called A Silent Treatment by Jeannie Vanasco. And this is about the silent treatment. So our author is kind of reflecting back on her childhood growing up and noticing how her parents used the silent treatment on each other and how that impacted her own life and how it's still kind of impacting her. And she's unpacking that, I believe. And when I say like her parents used the silent treatment as a weapon, we're talking like sometimes one of her parents wouldn't talk for 6 months to the rest of the family if they had done something to upset them. So like a really extreme case of it. That's such extreme behavior. I'm really curious to hear more about her experience, and I'm glad she's kind of, you know, in a way doing the opposite. Instead of being silent, she's coming out and using her voice and telling her story. So I think that's a lovely full circle moment for her. Excited for A Silent Treatment by Jeannie Vanasco. And that book is coming out also on September 9th. A lot of books on September 9th already. Next up, another September 9th release is The Animal on the Rock by Daniela Tarazona. I'm going with Tarazona. This is translated by Lizzie Davis and Kevin Gerry Dunn, and it is getting published by Deep Vellum. This is another one where the premise sounds so intriguing. almost a la The Pisces by Melissa Broder, which is a book that I really enjoyed. I'm gonna read you the first paragraph of this blurb because I think it does a really good job of kind of unfolding what this book is about. It says, after the death of her mother, Irma decides to take a plane and hole up on a faraway beach. Through the course of her grief, the protagonist's body, her instincts, and her perception begin to experience a transformation as unexpected as it is natural. The skin over her joints becomes thick and scaly, her eyes take on a yellow gleam, and she spends more and more time bathing in the hot sun. So this clearly is kind of taking on the idea of metamorphosis, and I'm always interested to see another take on this. I mean, like, this is such an age-old story that we kind of tell ourselves and tell each other, and hope it's going to be a hit for me. So that is The Animal on the Rock. And then we have a book that I mentioned in my mid-year freakout tag as one of my anticipated releases. It is Calls May Be Recorded by Katharina Volckmer. This one's published by $2 Radio, and it's getting published on September 16th. So we're finally out of the 9th, we're on to September 16th. This one is a workplace novel that is something that I've been extra interested in learning about lately. We're following Jimmy, who works at a London call center, and he fields complaints from dissatisfied travelers. So I think that's going to be funny and satirical in its own right. But on the day that we're following him, he gets a tip from one of his coworkers that he's about to be fired. And I think we kind of go into the hijinks and the calamity from there. And this one, the themes is really what's getting me. So the very bottom of the blurb says, this skewers the corporate workplace and water cooler relationships, culminating in an insightful and powerfully moving portrait of loneliness and human connection. Woo! Again, it's mentioning human connection again, in contrast with loneliness. I love it when books show like the balance of that. So I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Another really fun, funky cover as well. So that is Calls May Be Recorded. And then we come to The Wax Child by Olga Ravn. Is this her normal translator? Yes. So translated from the Danish by Martin Aitken. And this one's getting published by New Directions, which has published all of her English translations in the past. It is getting published on September 30th, my brother's birthday, in fact. And while I am ashamed to admit I still have not read my work, even though I want to read it so badly. I want to read it so badly, but I keep getting caught up in my library holds, stuff I'm reading for videos, and I just need to make space for it. Maybe I need to just make a video where I'm reading my books off my shelves that I'm most excited about, because that is one of the books. I love The Employees, really want to read my work. I think I'll actually like my work more than The Employees, but The Wax Child sounds equally fascinating. So this is actually a book about witches. It is a kind of departure of her previous two things, and it takes place in 17th century Denmark. We're following Christense, an unmarried noblewoman who's accused of witchcraft. Oof! Already, I'm so excited to see what Olga Ravn is going to do with this. So let me read you a little bit more of the blurb because it gets crazier. So she and several other women are rumored to be possessed by the devil, who's come to them in the form of a tall, headless man and gives them dark powers. They can steal people's happiness, they've performed unchristian-like acts, and they can cause pestilence or even death, and they're all in danger of the stake. Isn't that such a good setup? And with how talented of a writer she is, based on what I've read from her previously, I am so excited for this, what I think will be very different take on a witchcraft novel. But the other thing I want to mention about this book is Olga Ravn has said that she has invested a heavy amount of research in this, because she is pulling from actual witchcraft trials that took place in northern Jutland in Denmark, where the setting is. And there are original quotes from some of the letters, from the spell books, some of the manuals that were found from this time. That makes me extra excited to read it, that she's put that much research in. Excited. Oof, I'm so excited to read this. Also the cover, oh my God, I love it. I love it so much. That is The Wax Child. Then moving on to a very different title, we have Heart the Lover by Lily King. This is getting published by Grove, and it's also coming out on September 30th. I have not read Lily King before, although I have owned Writers and Lovers essentially since it came out, but I still haven't read it. I think I will love it, but I have not read it yet. So this is her new release. She hasn't come out with anything in a hot minute, so I'm sure lots of people will be anticipating this. The short blurb says that it's a novel of desire, friendship, loss, and the lasting impact of first love, which already sounds like something I'm going to enjoy. And then the more detailed part of the blurb, I'm just going to read the beginning, is in the fall of her senior year of college, our narrator, who I believe might be unnamed, meets two star students from her 17th century lit class, Sam and Yash. Best friends living off campus in an elegant house of a professor on sabbatical, the boys invite her into their intoxicating world of academic fervor, rapid-fire banter, and raucous card games. They nickname her Jordan, and she quickly discovers the pleasures of friendship, love, and her own intellectual ambition. Youthful passion is unpredictable though, and she finds herself at the center of a charged and intricate triangle. As graduation comes and goes, choices made will alter these three lives forever. Doesn't that sound messy in the best way? I do like a book where we're plucking a main character and kind of putting her into a world that is outside of her own, in this case like a socioeconomic world that is outside of her own, and how that both helps and hinders her in a lot of ways. So I'm excited for this. I think I could find this very interesting. Again, kind of taking on academia. I think I could like it. Maybe you could like it. That is Heart the Lover. Next up, we have Property by Cayley. This one comes out on October 7th, and it's getting published by Coach House Books. And this one also has a really great short tagline, which is, a spring day in a gentrifying neighborhood begins unremarkably enough. By evening, someone has died. This one, I'm gonna read the back half of the blurb because that's really what's selling me. But from the front half, really the main things you need to know is we're following Nat, who is our main character, who's a queer middle-aged mother of two, and she's really questioning a lot about her life. That's the general setup that we have there. The back half of the blurb says, as the troubled residents stumble through their errands, navigating the thorniness of class and privilege, of queer respectability and friendship in an overstretched city, each seemingly inconsequential exchange tightens in around the neighborhood, until finally tragedy strikes, leaving it forever changed. I don't know, something about it sounds like it's speaking to me, and I do like kind of knowing there's going to be a death up front and then getting the anticipation of waiting to get there and like waiting to get the information slowly over time. So that one, Property by Coach House Books, excited to read it. And then we have a release from a publisher that I don't read from often. I do have one of their other books on my shelves, but that is 7.13 Books. They come out with like 1 or 2 books a year. It's very infrequent that they publish something. But this new release is called The Morgue Keeper by Ruyan Meng, and it's getting published on October 15th. I love the cover as well. It's really sparse but really effective. And this setting is taking place in 1966. We're following as a brutal revolution grips the city, and the morgue keeper spends his night cleaning bodies in silence until a viciously murdered woman, known only as Number 19, shatters his routine, and he becomes entangled in an existential quest to uncover the truth behind her fate. So that's kind of the plot setup. Second half, talking about the themes, is again kind of what's getting me with this book. Today, the rapid rise of authoritarianism around the world, with its threat of state control and political persecution, gives plenty of reason for concern here in the United States, and plenty of reason to speculate on what is soon to come. The future that Ruyan Meng ventures in The Morgue Keeper, based on true events, it is both a tale for our uncertain time and a harrowing testimony to survival. Its hero is unforgettable and lies not in grand defiance, but in his unwavering faith in human kindness and compassion. And again, it just sells me. It just sells me. I really want to read it. So that is The Morgue Keeper. I think it might be dark. It's seeming like it's going to be pretty dark, but hopefully for a purpose, and that I can get behind. Next up, we have Self-Care by Russell Smith. This is getting published on October 21st by Biblioasis, another Canadian publisher I love. And this really, the short blurb tells me enough. It's an electric examination of women and men, sex and love, self-loathing, and 21st century loneliness. We have our main character who writes a column, I think kind of like a la Sex and the City, Carrie Bradshaw column, where she's like actively talking a lot about her personal life, her sex life, her friends, all that type of stuff. And the inciting incident for this one is our main character meets a man one day that she kind of gets into like a little bit of a like verbal sparring match, and then she ends up finding him like waiting for her outside where she works out. Instead of sort of seeing that as the red flag, the major red flag that it is, she wants to interview him for the column because she's writing on the incel movement, and then they start having a sexual relationship together, but I think it kind of increasingly gets out of control and becomes dangerous. So that's the setup for this book. I do think it's going to be kind of plotty, wild, but I'm here for it. And I trust Biblioasis, so I might not have read this if it came from a different publisher, but I think Biblioasis will do a good job with it. That is Self-Care. Next up, we have another Canadian publisher that we talked about before, Coach House Books, with When Water Became Blue. This is by Anais Barbeau-Lavalette, translated by Rhonda Mullins, and it's getting published on October 21st. Really, part of why I'm reading this is because it's been comped to Annie Ernaux. I love Annie Ernaux. Who doesn't love Annie Ernaux at this point? If something's come to her, I'm interested in reading it. This one is following a woman on an artist retreat on the island of St. Lawrence Seaway, taking time away from her partner and her daughter in order to write. While she's there, she encounters a painter, and they're immediately drawn to each other, and I think desire starts to build. They start having conversations about the color blue, which is definitely giving me Bluettes by Maggie Nelson, which I don't like. Unpopular opinion, I don't like that book. So that has me a little bit concerned, but we'll see how it goes. And then they end up in an extramarital affair. It says that in the blurb. That's not a spoiler or anything like that. And this might be why it's getting compared to Annie Ernaux, who famously writes about her affairs in her memoirs. The thing that really has me intrigued about this is it does say that it's trying to set desire against the power and beauty of nature, because they're both at this artist retreat that is set in nature, and I think like they're having a lot of conversations about the color blue and the landscape. So I'm curious to see how they bring in the natural world into that context. But yeah, I'm intrigued enough to at least try this one. This one probably isn't going to be one that I pre-order, but we'll try out from the library first. So that is When Water Became Blue. Whew, I'm really trying to go faster because we still have a good amount of books to get through, and I am starting to lose my voice. So next one is Lucky's Grove by H. Russell Wakefield, getting published on October 28th by Biblioasis. And this has a subtitle of A Ghost Story for Christmas, which, I mean, I want a ghost story for Christmas, so I'm intrigued. The blurb of this one says, reading a ghost story on Christmas Eve was once as much part of a traditional Christmas celebration as turkey, eggnog, and Santa Claus. World-famous cartoonist Seth selects and beautifully illustrates each book for this beloved series in his own inimitable way. Okay, so I think this is a cartoon. I think it's an illustrated cartoon, so no wonder I was interested. I love to see it. I haven't been reading as much graphic works lately, but I've really been wanting to, so this is gonna be one that I definitely pick up. Next, we have political fictions from the Middle Ages to the post-truth present by Patrick Boucheron, translated by Willard Wood, published by Other Press. This one is getting published on November 4th, my birthday. Yes, I was born on Election Day, which is both happy and sad depending on the year that we are talking about. This is an essay collection, so it's nonfiction if that wasn't obvious already. This book is really just examining the relationship between governing and storytelling, and how storytelling really plays a role in politics and power. So I think it's going to be hopefully very informative, but also, you know, I'm sure very hard to read at times as well. Then we're going to go back to Deep Vellum with Things and Thoughts by Alla Gorbunova. This is translated by Elina Alter. What they're reporting this as is pretty unique. So it is supposed to be thematically linked short prose that's divided into sections. So the sections are by subject, the subjects being romance, philosophy, and fate. And the stories linked to those subjects are being told in a fairy tale like manner. So I just think this is such a creative way to tell some stories. So I'm really excited to try it out. Also, the cover is great. This one also comes out on November 4th. Next up, we have Flat Earth. We're starting to see some of the themes emerge. I think this section, we're satire heavy in this kind of last 4 months of the year. So Flat Earth by Anika, Jade, Levy, published on November 4th by Catapult. I will say that back half of the year, Catapult has some banger releases. There were others that I am also really interested in that I didn't put on this list, but no, they are coming out with a lot of good stuff. This one, I'm just gonna read the kind of short version of the blurb because I think it's interesting enough as is. It says, a young woman struggles with the artistic success of her more privileged, beautiful best friend in this ruthless portrait of the New York art scene in which relationships are transactional, men are vampiric, and women have limited time to trade on their youth, beauty, and talent. Sounds amazing. Sounds amazing. I also love the cover of this. I love that pale pink with the black background. Really, really good. I do think I remember, again, I'm not going to read you the rest of the blurb, but I think there is something about like some conspiracy theories coming up in this book as well. So it might be taking on that in a pretty satirical way. Next up, we have Our Precious Wars by Perrine Trippier, translated by Allison Anderson. I always trip over saying that translator's name. I have read from that translator before. This one's getting published by Europa Editions, also purported to come out on November 4th. So a lot of books for my birthday. Thank you. Thank you to the publishing gods. This one also has a unique format. It is told seasonally, and we're following a woman's life who is now an old woman. She's living in hospice. She looks back on her life through the seasons, so summer, fall, winter, spring, and sort of like the themes that we associate with different seasons. So for example, like winter, there's themes of loneliness and death and what she's reflecting on. And then spring, there's like renewal, rebirth that she's focusing on in her life, that type of thing. So I'm really intrigued to see how this actually is laid out and formatted, because I think it's a really interesting way to go about writing a fictional story of someone's life. So that is Our Precious Wars. All right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left. We're so close. Oh my God, we're so close. Next, we have Love Life of Cheltenham Lady by Dina Brooke, coming out November 4th. You guessed it, published by McNally Editions. This one, so McNally Editions always republishes out of print classics, or like what they deem should be a classic. And this one, we're following our main character, Miranda. This is an affair novel. So Miranda and her baby are in a remote Italian countryside when a young Italian named Oreste arrives, claiming to have been invited by her husband, who's not there. And I think they fall into an affair, but this does say it's hurtling towards a horrific conclusion. So I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but I'm excited. And this book was first published in 1971. So you can imagine how much of a stir it caused at that time to have a woman on the page having an affair and enjoying sex, I'm assuming. So we shall see, but that is Love Life of a Cheltenham Lady. Next up, we have another lovely pink cover with Lucky Girl by Ali Tagle-Docus, getting published on November 11th. We're finally off of the November 4th books, and published by Tin House. And the premise of this is following a dance reality show, which I think sounds really intriguing. So we have 12-year-old Lucy, who is on the dance show. She's very talented. And one of the judges, named Bruce, strange choice for a name, but we'll see how that ties in, starts to have an almost obsessive like interest in Lucy and her talent. And I think he kind of sets himself up as her manager. And then we get her later in life where she's feeling like she needs to extricate herself from Bruce and kind of decide what she wants for her life. Kind of a different, unique take on a coming of age novel. So that is Lucky Girl. Then we have another essay collection, My Little Donkey. What a cute cover, and I love the title. This is by Martha Cooley, and it's getting published on November 18th by Catapult. I told you I'm into the Catapult books this last part of the year. And because this is a book of essays and not short stories, it doesn't necessarily give like the one-liners, But I will say that, so this collection was being written in 2021 while Martha Cooley was in her late 60s, and her husband had just moved from the United States to Tuscany. And I think this is about the process of moving and that big of a transition in their lives. And she's talking about encounters with people, animals, and herself as she makes this move. So I'm really excited. I think this could be an essay collection that's more kind of taking on the emotional side of self instead of like trying to just be educational like some essay collections are. So excited for my little donkey. And then penultimately we have Casanova 20 or Hot World. So I think there's an alternate title. We'll see how that comes into play. This is by Davy Davis. What a name. And it's getting published on December 12th by, take one guess, Catapult. You're so right, you're so right. And this premise is really intriguing. So we are following Adrian, who is supposed to be like uncharacteristically beautiful. Like that is his identity, is how gorgeous he is. And he gets lots of adoration throughout his life. As he gets older, he starts having a lot of affairs with men and women. He gets to live in like the life of luxury because of this, and even sometimes like getting into a dangerous possessiveness from other people. Then the pandemic happens and the book kind of cuts to 2021 when people start removing their masks, and Adrian realizes when he takes off his mask that he is no longer beautiful. And we go from there. I think that is a fascinating premise. Again, it's like that big immediate identity shift and what happens. And then lastly, thank God, because my voice is dying, and filming this, we're already past 50 minutes. It will be much shorter when I actually put it up, but we're at the 50-minute mark, people. So last up, we have Galapagos. This is by Fatima Velez, translated by Hannah Cowders. Another gorgeous cover, honestly. This one's published by Astra House and coming out on December 2nd. So I think, was the last one also December 2nd? Yes, it was. This book is a contemporary plague novel, which is part of what intrigues me. But it says it's trying to test the limits of how we understand illness, sexuality, the body, and what it means to make art in the face of our own mortality. So what this is about is we're following a group of bohemian artists who are dying of AIDS as they embark on a final voyage through the Galapagos Islands. And then we're kind of getting those themes from there. So yeah, I think, it's probably gonna be pretty gruesome, pretty hard, but I'm excited for this author's take on a modern plague novel, and I'm gonna try to read it. So we finally reached the end. I don't even know how many books that was. Please let me know if you're interested in reading any of these books. And this is gonna be the last anticipated release bundle for 2025. So I hope you enjoyed learning about some books that might have been off of your radar. I will see you all in the next video. Bye.